Welcome to Reddit Blue Pill Red Pill, where we go over Reddit stories and predict the outcome of the stories. Please listen and play along by typing in your choices into the comments. There are 5 seconds to answer, or you can pause the video. Today we have a story about a woman whose estranged parents are asking for financial support. All right, let's get on to the story.
I, 38 female, have been living in a different state from my family for over 10 years. I've supported myself the entire time and rarely ask anyone for help. I didn't grow up with my parents. My grandmother supported and raised me, and I never had a close relationship with them. Last year, I went on vacation with my siblings. During the trip, I found out that my youngest brother, 29 male, who makes the most money out of all of them, has been paying the mortgage and most of our parents' living expenses. He asked me why I wasn't helping financially.
It seems the OP was raised by her grandmother as her parents were living away with their other children. This is a very strange situation. Why is she the only one living with her grandmother and not any of her other siblings? The only thing I can think of is that she was raised by her grandmother since an early age, and when the parents began having more kids, the OP decided she wanted to stay with her grandmother, or the grandmother asked for the OP to remain with her. Regardless, the OP was hardly raised by her own parents and doesn't feel loyalty to them in the way most other children would towards their parents. The other siblings do have that familial connection to their parents since they were raised by them directly. But does that difference warrant totally neglecting your parents in their time of need? What do you think? If you think the brother had the right to ask the OP why she wasn't financially contributing for their parents, type Q1 red in the comments. If you feel the brother didn't have the right to bring that up at all, type Q1 blue.
Since he asked directly, I answered honestly. I told him that our parents didn't support me growing up and that I still remember when my grandmother asked me to write them a letter requesting financial support for my education. My mom wrote back to my grandmother saying she should teach me not to ask them for money because what my dad earned was just enough for them and my 3 siblings. My grandmother let me read that letter, which I don't think my mom knows.
The OP explains to her brother that while she was growing up, her parents did not support her financially for her education. The mother told the grandmother that they only had enough for themselves and her other 3 children, and it's sad to think that the mother excluded the OP in that statement, like the OP was not her daughter that needed to be helped like her other 3 siblings. I can see where the OP is going here. Since her parents did not help her financially and it was her grandmother who raised her, the OP feels no financial obligation to her parents since she did not receive any from them. We do not have details about why this living situation was established, with the OP living apart from the rest of her family, but do you think there is any justification for it? Or am I being too harsh and should not judge since I don't know any additional details? What do you think? If you think there could be legitimate reasons to keep one child isolated from the rest, then type Q2 blue in the comments. If you think there is no justification to separate siblings and exclude one from the rest, type Q2 red.
I told my brother that I contributed financially when we immigrated, and that I paid rent when I lived with them for 2 years. I also used whatever money I earned to help support my grandmother, who actually raised me until she passed away. After I moved to a different state, I've been completely on my own with zero financial help. Because of that history, I didn't feel responsible for supporting our parents now.
Here we have a bit more background on the OP and her family. The OP did live with the rest of her family later in life, but it seems it was only temporarily, just a couple of years. But while she did live with her family, she did contribute to the household, plus she helped to financially support her grandmother since she acknowledges the help she received from her, and the OP believes her grandmother earned that consideration from her. So the OP doesn't shy away from financially supporting the family, but she needs to believe the person she helps has earned that help from her. Her grandmother earned her support, her parents have not, at least in her eyes. But the OP did live with her extended family for some time. So is that enough to now demand financial support from her? Before it seemed that the OP had almost no contact with the rest of her family, but that is not the case. But does that change your opinion? What do you think? If you think this new info justifies the parents asking the OP for support, type Q3 blue in the comments. If you still believe the OP does not have any moral obligation to support their parents, type Q3 red.
Apparently, my brother told my mom. She confronted me via text and accused me of being disrespectful as a child.
I explained my side and the experiences that shaped my feelings. She mentioned times she believes I was disrespectful, including verbal and physical conflicts. I explained that these incidents didn't happen in isolation and were often triggered by her actions, such as trying to persuade my grandmother to send me somewhere to dance for money, or deliberately ruining my school uniform by putting soy sauce on it. I told her she had not treated me like a mother should when I was growing up. The conversation didn't go well, and afterward, my mom stopped talking to me. Eventually, the rest of my family did too. Now I'm basically no contact with all of them. I feel like I told the truth and set a reasonable boundary, but somehow I'm the one who ended up alone. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help financially and explaining my reasons when asked?
The OP's mother heard back from the other siblings what the OP had said, and the mother was not happy. The mother pointed to different times the OP had been disrespectful to her, but the OP defended herself and said that those fights were triggered by her mother. The OP writes about a time her mother told her grandmother to send her off to dance for money. Yikes, I have no idea what that means, but it doesn't sound good. There was also a time the mother deliberately stained her school uniform, which the OP seemed to take as a direct provocation and not an accident. There is definitely a lot of tension between the two, but with the OP having lived separated from the rest of her family, I think it's fair for her to feel resentment. But in the end, her mother is her mother, and it seems that at least they were together some of the time. I believe this was the end of the original post, but the OP did write extra details to fill in some gaps. I will show that next, but let's judge the situation based on what we have heard up to this point. What do you think? Is the OP the a-hole for refusing to help at all with her parents financially? If so, type Q4 blue in the comments. If you think the OP is not the a-hole and the parents earned her scorn and lack of support, type Q4 red. Now let's listen to the OP's updates.
So, just to clarify, my siblings paying most of my parents' mortgage isn't actually a hardship. The cost is split 3 ways between 2 brothers and 1 sister, and they all still live in my parents' house. I've never lived there and don't even have a room in that house, so I'm being asked to contribute to a household I was never part of. Their mortgage is under $2K, which is cheaper than what most people pay for rent right now. My siblings divide that amount based on income. My brother pays the most, and the other 2 split the rest. They also split utilities and groceries.
This clarifies a lot. All the siblings still live in the same house with their parents, but they have now taken charge of all the household bills. This makes sense since the siblings are all grown up now and work, so of course they should be contributing towards the household bills and expenses. There are no questions here, so let's continue.
My parents also receive fixed income from Social Security, which they use to travel back and forth between 2 countries. They're not struggling. They simply want to keep their same lifestyle without adjusting their spending. I'm married, and we don't have kids yet. My husband and I set up our finances so either one of us could cover all household expenses alone if necessary. That's intentional for if I get pregnant, I'd be able to stop working for a while without financial issues. My parents and siblings see that stability and assume it means I have extra money to give them, basically because my husband could support me.
The parents also receive income from Social Security. They visit their home country often, so it seems they are not in dire straits at all. The OP, on the other hand, is married and is planning for a potential child in the near future, so she needs to keep her earnings for the future she plans on. Does this new information change your stance on the story? Do children have an obligation to help support their parents even if the parents don't even need the help? As long as the parents are asking, then it is required. It could be argued that having extra income can help the parents live a more comfortable life. Plus, it is the children's way of thanking them for everything they've done for them. If you think children should support parents even if it is not needed, then type Q5 blue in the comments. If you think children only have an obligation to help as long as the help is earnestly needed, then type Q5 red.
Realistically, they could sell their house and make a significant amount of money, which would easily support their retirement back in my home country. My siblings are in their late 20s and early 30s, so they're fully capable of moving out, renting their own places, and building their own independent lives if they wanted to. But that's not what they're choosing to do. Living together is simply cheaper for everyone involved, and it benefits all of them. That's their choice, but it doesn't mean I'm required to subsidize it. So no, I don't think I'm the a-hole in this situation, which is why it's confusing to be treated like I am.
Her siblings are simply paying to live with their parents because it is cheaper than renting their own independent apartments. So their financial support is going towards the household bills that they all contribute towards, and they benefit from because this arrangement is cheaper than any other alternative. I thought the siblings had their own independent lives by this point and were contributing back to their parents separately. But if they all still live together, then their support is not as benevolent as it first seemed to be. What do you think now that we know all this extra information? Do the siblings have justification to ask support from the OP when the OP is living an independent life and all the other siblings still live in their parents' home and directly benefit from this arrangement by paying less than they would be if they were living independently, as the OP has done? If you think the siblings are still justified to ask for financial support from the OP, type Q6 blue in the comments. If you think they have no right to ask for support since their support is benefiting them as well, then type Q6 red. Now on to the final update.
Soy sauce was the most accessible thing for her to use because it was one of our main seasonings at home. When I was a teenager, school meant everything to me. It was my escape and the only path I saw toward a better future. Damaging my uniform wasn't random. It was the easiest and most effective way for her to hurt me. It was a big deal too because I only had one uniform, which means I hand wash it as soon as I get home, then let it air dry overnight, and wake up early in the morning to iron it. I basically had to hand wash it and dry it using an iron just to make it to school that day. Think of it like someone deliberately pouring red wine on a wedding dress. It's meant to destroy the one thing they know matters most to you. Yes, during that time, going abroad to dance is often used as a cover to lure girls into human trafficking. It's presented as legitimate work, but many end up exploited once they get there. I hope that helps clarify it.
Yikes, where do I start here? Regarding soiling her school uniform, the OP wrote that school was super important to her, and she only had one uniform which she had to wash daily. Deliberately ruining it was no different to her than someone deliberately ruining a wedding dress with wine. In the end, intent is what is important in this situation. Did her mother deliberately soil her uniform, or was it an accident? But the OP sees it differently due to her resentment of her parents. And what about that dancing job the OP mentioned? It seems this job may have been a human trafficking trap, and her own mother tried to convince her to join it. Can you blame the OP for all the resentment she holds for her parents and her mother in particular? Now let's hear some comments from the readers of her story.
Your mother went no contact with you? Appreciate the peace and quiet, not the a-hole.
And block her right back. Don't let the narcissist have control of when a communication channel reopens. In fact, block them all. Sadly, OP has not had family since the passing of her grandmother. She is not all of a sudden alone. She just didn't realize how long she has been alone because there were people with a shared DNA claiming to be family. However, they were not fulfilling the role of family.
Not the a-hole. Perhaps it is normal in your culture to have parents abuse and neglect their children and guilt-trip them for as much as possible, after which the children are obligated to take care of their parents, while these parents should be working to take care of themselves and their future. But in other cultures, this is not the case. Adults are supposed to take care of themselves, of their own future, and of their children while they are minors and unable to take care of themselves. If I were in your shoes, I probably wouldn't mind all that much to be shut out of a family that neglected me and now dares to have financial expectations of me.
I've noticed even if a culture has that sort of obligation, the takers of the world, like OP's parents, never follow through on their end. I highly doubt they financially support OP's grandparents, even though by their own logic, they should be. I would just throw that back in their face.
You weren't raised by your parents.
And your mom even tried to get you sent away to dance for money, which I can only imagine would have been in an exploitative/sexualized context unless you were a trained dancer, and even then this wasn't what you wanted, so regardless would have been wrong. I don't see how you owe them anything more than what you've given them. Obviously, we only have what is given, but if they all cut you off for this, you are probably better without them. It sucks, but families sometimes suck. I am sorry, and I hope you are well. Not the a-hole. No. Your parents farmed you out to your grandparents. Maybe they were only willing to raise boy children. Whatever. Your grandparents raised you. They were your real parents.
Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for watching all the way to the end and participating. Please consider liking and subscribing to watch future videos. Goodbye.